Do you ever have the intention to sit down to a nourishing meal that really makes you feel good when suddenly last minute you go for what you consider the forbidden food or something that makes you feel guilty afterward? If this is you, your inner rebel might be coming out and taking control. What is the rebel? So if you think of the rebel as an archetype or a symbol that comes from within us that everyone really kind of has to some degree or another, but in this case, it's coming out full force and taking over. Now, every kind of archetype or symbol has both its good and bad side, or you can say, I don't really like to use the word good and bad, but it's higher and it's kind of lower form. Now, the rebel energy is all about breaking the rules and reform and just finding freedom, no matter what the consequences are. So the lower form can be, it's really breaking rules for the sake of breaking rules, and it can go into destruction, in this case, self-destruction. The higher form of the rebel is it really is there to create positive change. It's overly repressed by rules and it wants to make changes for freedom in a good way. One way our inner rebel can be repressed is by the food police, which we talked about in our last video. So if you haven't watched that yet, definitely go check that out, because that can be a big reason your inner rebel is kind of mad and coming out in this way. Another thing it can come from is being overly repressed by others in our past. It could be from parents, from our peers around us, from the media at large. All of these eventually become internalized, but if we feel like that's being repressed by others, eventually we repress it ourselves because we feel like that's what we're supposed to do, and we're not really worthy if we aren't suppressing that. If it comes out, then we're doing something wrong or we're out of control. But this energy that's a part of us has to eventually be expressed in some way. So if we're not kind of letting it out naturally, then it's going to come out in a way to really get our attention and can turn into that destructive force and go against what we're actually trying to achieve. It can feel like we're rebelling against these rules that were imposed on us, but really we're rebelling against ourselves in the end. But again, the rebel can be a really positive energy if we balance it. Now, often if we're repressing our kind of rebel freedom energy around food, we're also doing that in other areas of our life, because how we do food is how we do life. So one way you can try and train that inner rebel to come out in a healthy way is looking at other areas of your life, just small things where you can use that energy in a positive way. So for example, that could be saying no to something that drains your energy when you would feel like you have to say yes. Or it could be wearing that outfit that might be a little bold, but you really love it, but you're not sure what other people are gonna think of it. Maybe you need to take a spontaneous trip, and something you might not otherwise allow yourself to do. And a big one is learning to really calm down that inner critic, whether it's while you're eating or in other ways. So often we go around without realizing what our thoughts are, and we can always have this kind of repressive critic on us that doesn't let us fully express ourselves. So even learning to work with that, be aware of it, that can actually help that inner rebel feel like it's getting some attention in a good way. When you do these small things that calm down the pressure and let that inner rebel express in a healthy way, eventually you're going to notice a difference in how you're eating and how that rebel might be taking over and pushing you to do things that actually don't serve you in a positive way. And finally, it's important to let your inner rebel be heard. So if you notice you're starting to rebel against food rules or even rebelling against things that actually nourish you, then just pause and listen to what that inner rebel is trying to say. Because when we're not able to listen, it's going to scream at us and get our attention by doing something that we don't like. So when you hear that voice, don't judge it, try not to be angry with it, and just listen to what it has to say. We don't have to act on what it's saying, but even just listening can go a long way. So play with this, see what happens, and I would love to hear in the comments what you notice going on for you. How does your inner rebel tend to show up? And also feel free to take the quiz linked in the description box below so you can find out what stage of nourishment you're in now. And also you'll get a couple emails from me a month just kind of talking about these in more detail. The next video, I'll be talking about another archetype or energy that can come out and disrupt eating. So feel free to stick around for that next week.